Hello and welcome everyone to Developed Live. Tonight we are talking about our recipe RY4 Custard. Hope you guys mixed it up. Hope you guys have some stuff to talk about with us about it. This is how the show is going to be. Last one didn't work out so great, but this is how the show is actually going to be. So what have you guys been mixing up? What have you guys done this week? Hope you guys mixed up some good stuff. Tonight we have Folk Art, Graham, Alfred, and myself. So what have you guys been?
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, everyone. How are you? This week I've just been
Go ahead.
I've just been testing the new Wonder flavors and some not so pleasant savory stuff for Noted, and yeah, not much else.
Yeah, I've been actually mixing up a few testers for a Noted show that's coming up in February. They're going to do chocolate cookies, so I went ahead and mixed up about 9 or 10 different chocolate cookie flavors, and I've got those steeping right now. So looking forward to that show. Been doing that. Mixed up a recipe by Bigfoot this week. Shout out to Bigfoot. He's a fairly new mixer. He's been mixing, I think, for about 6 months, and he wanted me to mix it up. It's pretty good. It's a strawberry cake or shortcake, I believe. And,
yeah, I saw that strawberry cake. It looks really good.
Yeah, so it the strawberry in it turned out really good. So I've been doing that, chilling out. It's rainy here, damp. It's miserable.
Yeah, it's been snowing like crazy here, and I think it's going to be getting worse later in the night. Did you mix up that new chocolate cookie crust?
From Wonder Flavors?
Yep.
Yeah, I did. And the other that was one of the chocolate cookies that I mixed up for a test, and I didn't test any of the other ones, but I did test this one because I was kind of curious, and I think I probably mixed it too light. I think I mixed it up at like 3%. I probably should have went to about 5% on it.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I started at 3, but it works higher. I pushed up to 4, and that got a lot better.
Yeah, but it's good. It's really good. It's got a pretty nice chocolate cookie kind of crunch to it. So yeah, good. Big shout out to Wonder Flavors on that flavor. I think it's going to have a lot of uses.
What about you, Max? Anything exciting recently?
Well, I just got in a couple of the new Wonder flavors. I got the cannoli shell, and I got the cream puff. Both of those smell really solid. I'm really excited to try those. Work on a couple recipes. I'd really like to get a nice cannoli, so that'd be really dope. But
yeah, Graham's been losing his mind about the new cannoli shell.
Dude, that cannoli shell is so... I don't even know how to describe it. It's ridiculous. They did a really good job on this last round. The last 2 rounds, actually.
Could probably do ridiculous. A lot with it instead of... I don't think you're limited to just doing cannoli either.
No, think about it like a cheesecake.
Yeah, that's...
You know what I mean? Like,
that's what I was thinking. I have FA's Joker, and I think that might be a little bit better if you want to make an actual cannoli, but I think the new cannoli shell from Wonder Flavors can be so useful outside of that.
Oh yeah, and like a million things. Even by itself, so damn good. I shouldn't just smell it.
Yep.
So you want to get into the custard RY4 that we made up? Talk about what we think?
Sure, we can. I've got a question for the chat. Did anybody mix the recipe up? I'd like to know what y'all think of it. If you had a chance to mix it up. So just shout out in the chat if you did, and if you've got any comments on it, just throw it up there.
All right, so Max, you want to lead us off? What you thought about it and how it's steeped so far?
I fucking love this shit. It's so good. It's really weird to me how, usually when you're working with the Flavora tobaccos, they tend to drop off and kind of disappear after in the first couple days and everything like that. But this one was really weird where I didn't really notice too much of a change between, like the first day up until probably we've had it for about a little over, no, it was 2 weeks today. And I didn't start to notice a change until a couple days ago. So like on the 10th day, I'd say is when it kind of got a little flat, the Flavora tobaccos, but then they shot right back up and they taste even better now. I really enjoy that Turkish native combo. I think it was a perfect way to go for with the custard and everything. I wouldn't change any of that layer.
Yeah, I think people are gonna pick up on that and start using that.
Yeah,
good combo.
Yeah, so I'm gonna throw this recipe out so everybody else can see it there. Yeah. So it's up there.
Yeah, so I thought it was really weird too, Max, that like Flavora tobaccos usually have a boomerang where they're like pretty good as a shake and vape and then pretty good at like the 2 week mark, but usually in between it's like they fall out. But it really avoided that until like a few days ago. It's super good.
Yeah, and I'm not really sure what this would be like one of the first times where you have other components of like we've got the custard layer, which takes a while to steep, and it was great off a shake and vape, but if you wait the 2 weeks, everything just pulls together perfectly. But you've got the ethyl maltol and you've got the diacetyl or the DAP and everything in the custard, and I don't know if that played anything to do with the tobaccos, but it got really interesting. Again, I love this shit.
Yeah, so our first version of this didn't have the butterscotch ripple in it, and it seemed a little, I don't know, bland. Is that it? Is that the word? Is that what?
Yeah. The creams felt like really, really flat, and like they were really mild behind the cream and custard part, or behind the tobacco and custard part.
Yeah. This was like actually just a slight modification that we did to the first one. It was just adding in the butterscotch ripple, which, it made it rounded everything out a little bit more. The tobaccos got a little bit softer, but they were still really present. And then you had the cream from butterscotch ripple just worked perfect with the TFA custard, and then we had the butterscotch really opened up more of that RY4, that caramel and vanilla kind of thing, and worked great.
So I have to say that I'm not really a tobacco person. It's not one of my favorite profiles to go after. I can vape it, and if it's good, I'll vape it. But it's just not one of my like all day vapes or something like that. So this was a little bit different, a different type of recipe that I normally make. But it is absolutely delicious. I mean, I think it's that type of tobacco recipe where if you're not really into tobaccos, that this will be like an entry point, because it's got the creams, it's got the custard, it's got the rich butterscotch, the caramel notes in it, caramel, whatever you want to call it, and it's just it's a very nice vape. There is one thing though I want to say about the construction of this recipe that kind of just came to me. So with most of my recipes that I develop, I think of it as like you have the base, you have a like a top note, and then you have like accent notes. And this recipe for me seemed like a total different kind of construction than that. It almost seems like, and I thought about this later after we made it. It almost seems like there's actually two bases in this. That you have the tobacco, you have the tobacco base, and then you have the custard base. and then the butterscotch is like a bridge that brings those two bases together, or transitions those two bases together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I completely agree. That's like a really unique part of this recipe.
Yeah. So that kind of changed my way of thinking about how to construct a recipe. It doesn't necessarily have to be a base, a top note, and a accent note. It can be two bases with like a connector connecting the two bases together. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I have another interesting thing that I just noticed today. But before I do that, Emily, which you probably know, she's not like the hugest fan of any tobaccos other than FA Soho. Do you think that she might like this as someone that's not usually into tobaccos?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Graham. Go ahead.
I was saying I think she would, because I'm kind of in the same boat as Emily. I'm getting more and more. I'm liking it more and more and more. But like Cardinal was pretty much the only one that I would mess with. But this one seems like a more built on type Cardinal. It's very not similar to Cardinal, but it's in the same genre, I guess. But it just seems like there's more going on. And yeah, I definitely think Emily would be into it for sure. I'd like to see her get into it and build on that, see what she can do with it. She has interesting ways that she fucks with stuff.
Yeah, and speaking of building on it, there was a question: do you think that adding some buttered pecan would work? Do you think that would turn out well?
Absolutely. I think that you could do whatever you want. You could swap out the butterscotch triple, but I did notice like that cream was really helping it out. Maybe what is that Wonder Flavors? Pecan and cream? Do they have that?
Yeah, buttered pecan.
Rum baba.
Yeah.
What about the rum baba?
I mean, I've never had it, but I'd say go ahead and try it. I mean, it could probably be good.
Yeah, the roasted pecans and cream, I think is what you're thinking about.
I would try that in here. It could be really interesting.
Yeah, I know they have both of those. The interesting part that I noticed today was that at the 2-week mark, the custard, the TPA custard, really started to come out like a lot more than it was.
Oh yeah, but what I would say, touching back to like what with Emily, if you're not super into tobaccos, this is a really good like entry into getting them. You only have to buy we only use 2 Flavora flavors, so you'll probably end up liking Native. So you might actually use that more than you would think. And if you like all the other flavors with the tobaccos aside, I would definitely give this a mix.
How would he use Native though if he got it? Like right when he got it?
Oh, once you get Native, just throw out all your other flavors and just vape
all of them, right?
Yeah.
Like from the top to the bottom, everything you own, just throw it out.
Every single one of them. Well,
okay.
Yeah, absolutely all of them. Buy
Even
more
like
and then
Sweetener?
throw those ones out too, and just keep getting Native.
Yeah.
Just vape
Vape it
2%
all.
Native for the rest of your vaping time.
Just have them drop ship directly to your garbage. That's
Yeah.
that's the way it
Volkart
goes.
even told me he's not going to
Good
do
idea.
clones or any other recipe because he's just going to vape
Yeah.
Flavora Native.
Yeah,
forever.
I'm
next 19
done. I'm done. I'm done
That's it.
mixing. I quit.
Well, the next 19 episodes are going to be just Native at 2%.
Yeah.
And we'll
Well,
just talk about that.
Sorry, guys.
7 hours.
Well, I was told by Max that Native was the perfect base for a tobacco, and I have to, after mixing this recipe, I have to agree. I've tried some of the other Flavora tobaccos, and none of them seem to be like a really good base like Native is. So you're right, Max.
I cracked the seal on Native on this one. I'd never even tried it.
Yeah.
And I got
So
I
good.
got people coming over tomorrow to take all my shit out.
Oh, I'm glad that I could pop your cherry.
Oh, Max.
It's so good, Max. So good.
And to all the other people out there in the chat, if you haven't tried it, just gonna tell you ahead of time, I'm glad I could pop your cherry too.
You're letting them know ahead of time.
Oh yeah.
True creep.
So
True creep.
Emily just asked, she's going to mix it right now, and I think Mary Beth was saying the same. Do you guys want to talk about what you think as a shake and vape, how this recipe is?
Sure. I mean, I liked it. I liked it right off the bat. I was under the impression that tobaccos had to steep for a month or something like that, and I know some of them do, but this was pretty damn good just right off the shake. And I right off the shake, I got a little more of the spicy note. I don't think I get as much of that now. I think it's smoothed out better after 2 weeks. I know Max did some. I think he vaped it like every single day for the 2 weeks, so he could probably talk more about it than I can.
So in like the first, few days and everything, the thing you're gonna get the most is like kind of the off notes that you would expect if you vape vanilla custard. All of that is what makes it enjoyable is like, yeah, you're still gonna have a little bit of that, but you're distracted by how forward the Turkish is because it's got a really nice like leafy spice note to it, which I personally love. It's one of my top Flavora tobaccos, and that and native is a little spicy too, but it's native. It's just good and everything. So I would say you're gonna get the butterscotch right up front. You're gonna get a little bit of those vanilla custard off notes and what's going on there, but other than that, I think it's hidden pretty well behind how good that combination of Turkish and native is. So
Yeah. Kind Ground was asking. We touched on it a bit before about the fading. Like tobacco, the tobaccos normally like they'll fade after the first day or so, and then come back in 2 weeks. Somehow we worked some magic and managed to avoid that. They didn't really drop off until like the 10-day mark, but then they come back 2 days after that. So you don't have to worry about that.
yeah, it's a very interesting thing that happened. Like I really don't know what was going on here. I've worked a lot with the Flavora tobaccos, and that rule stands for every one of my mixes. I just put them aside and everything. But I really wanted to try this one every day along the way, and I don't have much left. And I'm gonna finish this like by the end of the show.
So we had one person. I think it was Mary Beth. Is she in the? Yeah, she's in the chat. She had made a comment on the show in the comment section that if somebody had if they didn't like the TPA vanilla custard, if they got like a pepper note from it, that she might substitute the Flavora vanilla custard for that. What do y'all think about that?
I completely understand, and I feel for all the black pepper tasters out there. The issue with using Flavora vanilla custard is that it's really not much of a vanilla custard, despite the label. It's more of like a pudding, which I'm pretty sure it's actually just a slight variation of Flavora vanilla pudding. But if the pepper thing is like really bad and you'd prefer not to use it, FA Custard Premium I've found is a pretty good substitute for TPA.
Yeah, and you can't buy that in the U.S. though. You have to get it through like Chef's Flavors. Is that right?
We talked about that, right? Like we talked about that with the premium custard and the reason.
Yeah.
We didn't.
Well, we didn't really touch on that, but that's definitely part of it. Is that FA premium custard's harder to source, but also like Folkart mentioned during the episode, the pepper note, which I agree with because I tried it. It kind of works really well with the tobaccos for adding like a spice. I really like it here.
Yeah.
Right.
Michael Morris was asking about Inawera custard. I don't think that would fit the bill very well because it tends to steep out similar to Flavora vanilla custard to more of a pudding-like thing where it's not as eggy and upfront. And so I feel like, especially with the tobaccos, it would kind of just fall into the background too much.
Yeah, and although I do get a slight pepper note from TFA vanilla custard in this mix, I don't. So if that's any consolation to anybody.
Yeah, we're not trying to bullshit you guys either. If you guys get it, I mean, we're not trying to sell you guys to just mix up the recipe like, oh yeah, it's perfect. No, whatever's wrong with that one, no, we fixed it. Like, no, your experiences might vary and everything, and if they do, let us know and everything. But we were talking about it, even adding a little bit of TPA's vanilla ice cream to it to play off of that spice note that some people get. So I don't get it from TPA vanilla custard. I actually get it more from the vanilla bean ice cream.
Yeah. Courtney was mentioning in the chat that if you are looking to get FA Premium Custard, if you go to Chef's, it's called Flavor Creative. You can save a little bit of money. It's a FA rebottled. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think maybe a good substitute could possibly be the Liquid Barn ice cream, but you'd have to play with it.
Yeah, and if you have any other ideas, feel free to try them out and let us know. We're always open to try variations on stuff we make. And Mary Beth brought up another good point about RY4 Custard not being a great choice here, is that it gets a little bit dry. And when we're using a tobacco already, we really want to avoid drying everything out.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. You don't want to get too dry, especially because we are kind of going for a dessert tobacco. So, yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah, and then Max was saying that we're not bullshitting you, and we're really not, because I don't want to get into the next episode that's coming out too much, but we're not always going to be successful first try, and we're going to have to revisit stuff, and we're not going to just put out stuff that we don't think meets our standards at all.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wish that Skittles was here, because he really enjoyed this. I think this was probably his idea, was the RY4 Custard to begin with, right?
Yeah, he brought up using the vanilla RY4 Custard for the base. That was his idea, and I think it was genius.
Yeah, he's always wanted to actually take that and have it work. And I think that's another good reason why we talked a lot during the development process of how it's not really a great custard. It's more of just a cream. And we really wanted to back that up and kind of fill it out. And that's why we landed on trying to get an actual custard, because Capella custard wouldn't work with it. It's a little too
recognizable.
Yeah, and that oiliness isn't really needed, that fattiness of it. It's a little it wouldn't really work. I think you'd cover up that really nice vanilla that Wonder Flavors RY4 Custard does have, and it would just overpower it, and we'd have to pull that out, and it'd be a totally different recipe.
Yeah. So Graham, you got anything to add to it?
Yeah, I'm talking to Luke in the recipe or in the chat. He's talking about the tobacco's being too sweet for him, and I get that. I do understand that, but just trying to. He said he's tried all the the things that I would suggest, like Bitter Wizard and just a bunch of different things. But he hasn't tried VG and PG. I mean PG, the VG soy and palm different.
Mm-hmm.
One of them's a lot sweeter than the other. I think it's just the palm is a lot sweeter. Is that what it is? Just thinking maybe you could try that. That might help him.
Yeah, Mary Beth just said that she enjoyed it a lot, so we got at least one thumbs up, and I'll take that.
Awesome.
So Graham was talking about the other day while we were recording an episode that he kind of wanted us to go over some of the words that we use when describing like a recipe that we make.
Yeah, the terminology.
And how that really doesn't translate to his experience, and it always made him feel like he wasn't doing something right, or he wasn't getting the same thing as everyone else. So if we just want to go over like that subject about the words that we use, like top note, base note, something being crispy, dry, textural.
Texture. That's the big one. Is the was it texture?
Yeah, texture
like
in general.
Like that.
Yeah, and like thickness, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So Max, if you want to lead us off, or Folkart, what do you think? Like, how can we explain those words better for someone that's just getting into this?
Well, for me, it's really hard to explain an experience that you have from a vapor and put it into words. It really is difficult. I use words like texture and mouthfeel kind of the same way. Texture normally for me means that it has some type of like a crunchiness to it, or like it'll have AP in it or something like that. Mouthfeel is more like a fullness of. It feels like that your mouth is saturated with the vapor, as opposed to something that is light and doesn't really feel. You can't feel the volume in your mouth. That's the way I look at it. What about y'all guys as far as texture and mouthfeel?
Yeah, so like what I was trying to help Graham understand, which I think it did, is that he's not doing anything wrong. And when we use those words, we're not describing the same thing you'd get from eating something at all. It's just using the flavors that we have to sort of to give that impression. And so like things with like crunchy textures, they'll usually rely on like a bitterness or something that when your tongue like senses that, it translates that when you eat something bitter, it has like that sharpness. Or like a custard where it's like being thick, it's not necessarily going to be like you're eating custard where it's actually thick. It's just going to seem like the vape is more full. And so you just have to look at how you would apply those things that you find in food to flavors and just the taste you're getting from a vape.
Yeah.
And,
no, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask Graham if like our descriptions helped him figure that out, but if you have more to add. Yeah.
I get that. I understand what it is, and I understand now even how to. I wasn't necessarily talking for. I was saying when I first started out, it took me a lot longer to understand what the fuck anybody was talking about than, because now I know what everyone's talking about and even what the words they're using, but I don't think the words are accurate. You know what I'm saying? Like they're just not accurate, and it took me a lot longer than I probably would have if the wording had been a little bit different, I think.
Yeah,
like I don't get.
I mean, when you're a new mixer and you have all these terms getting thrown around by people who like everybody's using the same terms and they're not really that specific to like what.
Because we're using them and we understand them and I understand them and I have for a while, but it's that I didn't. It took me 2 times as long to understand what the hell they were even talking about. Because like steeping, that doesn't make sense at all, you know. And there's a lot of them that don't, like textures, like. You're not getting texture, you know, like at all, but there's a vibe and a feeling to it. And I don't know, I just think maybe the words should be a little better explained, I think, because I think we
right.
don't necessarily consider the newer mixers and they may not understand. We're talking like it may as well be Japanese to each other, you know, if we're not Japanese, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, because Japanese would understand each other. That's, you know.
That does make a lot of sense now that you put it that way.
Yeah.
But when you like, if you're going to describe, you know, if we're talking about the custards and everything, like you've got FA custard, just the regular one that I don't care for. It's thin and it's kind of dry and it really disappears in a mix. But if you're just going to talk to somebody who is just starting out and they don't really know what you're talking about, that's not gonna make any sense to them. It's later down the line where you're talking about when you can actually compare all the other custards that we're bringing up in the chat thing, where why these ones fit the bill and why we didn't use something as shitty as FA regular custard.
Yeah, it's describing blue to a blind guy, you know.
Yeah, and well, that topic of not liking FA custard helps transition into Courtney's question, which is, what do we do if we don't instantly agree on flavorings to use, which happens more often than not, that we will not immediately agree.
We go to a physical battle.
Yeah, so basically we argue for about 2 minutes and then just fight to the death. That's usually how it goes.
Yeah,
That's why Concrete's not on the show anymore.
Right.
Yeah, took him out early.
So what we end up doing actually is when we don't agree on something, which is a reason that I like working with this group of people, is that everyone here seems to be really open to listening to someone else's opinion. And so we'll discuss what that flavor is going to bring to our recipe and why we want to use it. And then if someone has other ideas, we'll listen to those. And then we basically it ends up being like we're taking a vote where the majority opinion usually. We'll go with that, try it, see if it works, and then if it doesn't work, we'll work with something else.
Yeah, I mean it's a give and take, and there's the mixers that we have on here. We all kind of have our strong points. You know, one is a tobacco. Max, he likes tobaccos. You know, I kind of know something about bakeries. You know, so and Skittles, he's kind of old school. He likes to use some of the older kind of flavors, not many of the new flavors. So, and I like to experiment with new flavors. So we just kind of all feed off of each other, which is awesome. You know. Well,
yeah, because I mean we're learning too. So there's everybody. We all have our own, shit that we can learn from. And then we also use what we got to convince the other one of what the right thing to use is.
Yeah, and if somebody brings up a flavor and says like, this is absolutely what y'all need, and we don't have it, we get it. We order it. We get it because I feel like that we trust each mixer enough to know what they're talking about. So we do our best to get the best flavoring possible for the recipe.
All right, so
that's the goal here.
We got Emily coming in with her opinion. She sees how people that like tobacco might like this, so that's like a semi thumbs up. I'll take that too.
I mean, that's the best we're gonna get from Emily. So I actually think that I'm gonna take that as a 5-star.
Oh, we should put that in the opening credits. Yeah.
So that what you were just talking about, Fulcar, brings up another thing that I feel like we could touch on here because it probably won't get addressed very much during like the recorded episodes, and that's how we go about assembling the flavors that we're going to work with. And like you were saying, if we don't have that flavor, we'll get it. And I feel like if anyone's going to work on a collaboration in general, it might help to know how we go about it.
How we go about ordering the flavors,
right, and like assembling that group of flavors that we're going to work with.
Well, the way I assemble any kind of recipe is I start with a base, and based on what I have tested with the flavors that I have, that's the criteria that I use, to build any kind of base. There's flavorings that y'all have tried that I haven't. So, I have to rely on your opinions and your experience on some of the recipes, especially like this tobacco recipe.
Yeah, and then what we'll do, because we record everything in advance, is that we assemble a list on like a Google document of all of the flavors we think we might want to use for the profiles that are coming up. And then we make sure that we all have like generally the flavors that are going to work for that profile. And so everyone gets to add to that list, and then we kind of synchronize flavor collections in a way for a recipe. And I feel like that's really, really helpful to make sure that you use the right flavors and use other people's experiences when making something.
Yeah, there's many orders that I order just one or two things several times a week. But it's cool.
Cloud King Cody has a question. Can you use Serial 27 at a low percentage like AP to get the same effect?
It doesn't have quite. I mean, AP is much stronger, I think. But Serial 27, I used to use Serial 27 quite a bit in some of my mixes, but I've come to realize that I get like a cardboard note from it. So I haven't really used it that much. I mean, it does add some crunchiness. Like if you're going for like a cornflake or something like that, you can add it to another flavoring to kind of bolster that. But I don't like to. If I do use it, I don't like to use it as a main note.
So do you use AP usually, or do you have another flavor that you like to go to add like a bready or crunchy quality?
For like a cereal.
Or just no, as like a general purpose additive, like AP is used, or Serial 27 can be used outside of cereals, whether or not you like it.
Yeah, I mean, AP is always a good start. If I'm doing something like a crunchy cookie, I like to use FA cookie because it does have some of that AP in there, and it gives it that texture that you need in something like that. Yeah.
What about you, Max? What do you use to add like a crunchiness or to make something drier or breadier?
Well, it does depend a lot on the recipe, but I definitely find Serial 27 to be a pretty accurate like cornflake with a little sweeter than, especially compared to like AP. Sometimes a lot of those other ones, like you've got Inawera biscuit, Jungle Flavors biscuit, FA cookie, it all depends on what I'm going for, but they all have a certain amount of AP and other things going on. So if I really need it to stand out, I'll just go with straight AP.
But if you tried sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was wondering if I could try the crunchy cookie. You ever tried that for a cookie?
The crunchy cookie.
The Capella's the new Silverline one.
No, I haven't. I haven't tried that one.
Try that yet?
I've only got like one or two of the silver lines. Yeah.
All right, Emily has an update. It's growing on her, the RY4 Custard. So that's like a 3/4 thumbs up. I like it.
Awesome.
That's like a 10-star recipe.
Yeah.
All right, so just as a general overview, now that we've let it steep for 2 weeks, we all enjoy it. Is there anything you could see like that you would want to change in the future?
I wouldn't change anything. I really like it. It was really hard for me to not put milk and honey in it, but because I like to put milk and honey in like all my tobaccos now. I just think they, especially like in a dessert one, it's kind of like a cheat code. It makes them amazing. So, but the butterscotch ripple was a neat little trick that I'm going to play around with a lot more. So I wouldn't change anything personally, but you could definitely, take some notes on this recipe and tweak it to more of your liking and everything, whether you use a different tobacco base or you use a different custard or any aspect of it and you make it your own. To me, it's perfect.
What about you, Folkart? Anything you would change?
I don't think I would change anything about it. I mean, it's got the right amount of caramel note in there. It's got the right amount of tobacco. That custard is rich. It's thick. I wouldn't change a thing. What I do like about this recipe is the idea of using that butterscotch ripple not only with, let's just say that you're doing a custard with some type of bakery, and they're both there, but they're not really like, it's not really full. It's like lacking something. Try the butterscotch, that Flavor West butterscotch ripple, to try to bridge that bakery and that custard together. That's the only thing that I can really think of about taking this recipe and changing it, but changing it into something else.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't think I would change anything about this recipe. Everything that we wanted to come through as our goal, it's all there. And what about you, Graham?
I add 1 drop of smooth vanilla, which I do to everything, no matter what.
Oh,
But
fuck.
I don't even know if I don't know if I'd add to this. I do it just because I do it, but I don't know if it would make it better. I mean,
did you say super sweet?
No, yeah, super sweet and smooth vanilla.
That's
Okay.
Folkart can ever hear is just super sweet.
Super
the only
sweet.
thing I would probably change is just 2% native.
Just get rid of everything.
Yeah.
And keep the native.
Yeah, probably drop the Flavor West butterscotch ripple, the TPA vanilla custard. I don't know
Get rid
that
of that.
Turkish is doing a whole lot here. Probably get rid of that too. Vanilla Regan custard, it's not a great custard really. You need some help, so probably get rid of that. And probably push that native. Yeah, push it up to like 2%.
2?
Yeah, 2% sounds good. What do you think, Mac?
Yeah, I would just play around with your PG-VG ratio. And I think that'll get you right there.
Yeah.
Another successful recipe, 2% native.
Yeah.
So I've got a question for Max about tobaccos. I know he don't really like to add sweeteners to anything, and most of the things that I do, I add sweeteners. This recipe absolutely did not need any kind of sweetener. It's actually, I'm kind of surprised that Max doesn't say that it's a little sweet for him.
It's just kind of something I've accepted at this point. But did you have more that you wanted to ask about it, or?
Well, I guess the question was the sweetness level. How do you feel about the sweetness level of this mix?
In this mix, I've just kind of accepted in a lot of tobaccos that you're really not going to be able to like emulate like the real thing, and this profile doesn't exist outside of vaping. So to me, it's kind of, I don't think it's too sweet. I think it has a really nice balance between the tobacco, and it's just like, we talked a lot in discussion about when we created it, where if we just focused on one layer, it would just have a tobacco off note. And if we didn't do it the way that we did with this one, it would just be a lot heavier on tobacco, and then you'd miss that custard and everything. So I feel like right here is a really safe area for it, where it's not too sweet, it's not cloying in any kind of way, and it just works for me. I don't think it's too sweet.
Well, I was really surprised
How do you?
at the sweetness level, because it's perfect for me. I wouldn't want it any sweeter, and I wouldn't want it any less sweet. The sweetness
How do you,
level.
how do you go about? How do you go about getting sweetness out of it, Max? Usually, I mean, being the sweet boy you are.
Well, I don't. It's really tough. Like some of the tobaccos are already just sweet. There's nothing that you can really do. You can kind of take it out with FA Bitter Wizard, but I don't feel like you're getting. I think you're changing the concentrate more. It is Bitter Wizard, right, Alfred?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I always get that one confused with the other FA.
The MTS. Or,
Vape Wizard.
So
there's another one too. That's
there's like
what's that?
3 of them.
Magic Mask. Magic Mask.
Candy Wizard, Bitter Wizard, MTS Wizard, all the
I
wizards.
definitely don't use
except for
candy.
the wizards.
And then Magic Mask. Magic Mask takes the pH balance, messes with the pH, right?
Does it?
It almost says it does something with the pH. But in the description, it's almost like what Bitter Wizard should do too, I think. But yeah, there's a few of them that are confusing. But I think Bitter Wizard is the one that gets the sweetness out. I didn't mess with tobaccos too much, so I don't really know. But I think that's.
If you're just gonna try and make the best thing I can say, if you're going for a tobacco that you don't want to be sweet, you gotta lower your expectations a little bit first. That's the main part. And then other than that, you can't add stuff like you're gonna get sweetness just from even adding vanilla, just because your brain just kind of correlates it to vanilla. It's a little sweeter, and some of these concentrates are already sweet. So you're just gonna have to play around with just straight tobacco stuff that aren't very sweet and just try to go from there.
Lowering your expectations doesn't sound like we don't bend, we don't break. Our philosophy. I mean, we are Treyway.
Yeah.
Max, how do you feel about using Inaware as DNB or like FA Blackfire? Do you think that helps with sweetness at all?
Yeah, I do. I actually get a lot of. That's actually a better point. If you're going to do like a straight tobacco and add a little bit of like that vanilla and stuff that's not overly sweet, then I would go with Blackfire, because I feel like it dries it out just again with what your brain associates. Like you're smoking it, it's a little smoked, it's a little less sweet. So I would go that route for that one. DNB I actually find a little sweet, but you still get
It's I think that's what turns a lot of people off. To tobaccos. No, well, yeah, if you're talking drum and bass, turn me off, and I don't. Yeah. But the sweetness in tobaccos, I think, is what turns a lot of people off. Like that, I think. I don't know. It's what turned me off.
I definitely
so I wasn't expecting it to be.
Yeah, and Luke Loop in the chat wants to know what's the least sweet tobacco you've tried on its own without doing anything.
Black Fur Pipe isn't very sweet. Native isn't really sweet. Kentucky isn't sweet. Some of the Hankson ones I find are a little bit more sweet. Some of the Inaware ones are. So I would go with some of the more basic ones, like from Flavora. Other than that,
what about is Red Burley pretty sweet to you, or is that one that you recommend?
Yeah, I find that one pretty sweet, and I think it's still that kind of because you get that chocolate note in there, so it smells a lot sweeter, and the room note in it is a lot better too. So I find that to be that, and Connecticut Shade I find to be really sweet, but I always use Connecticut Shade really low. So I would start with stuff like Native, Kentucky, Cured. Some of the fur pipes aren't too sweet, but some of them have like a fruitiness going on. So again, that's gonna try to bump it up a little bit. But I would definitely go with black fur pipe and utilize Blackfire, or in the right situation, I would definitely pick up DNB and play with that.
All right, awesome. I feel like you crushed that question. So, yeah, everything is perfect for me with the recipe that we made this past week. And then, how do you guys want to go about teasing the next episode, or not yet? How do you feel about that?
I can talk just a little bit about it without giving away too much about it.
All right, I like it.
So we met this week and tackled a profile, and so this is this last recipe that we've been talking about. We spent one evening. It was about 2 or 3 hours together, something like that, and we were able to come up with this. The one that we worked on this week, we spent an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours on it, and it's not finished. I don't think. It's okay. It's pretty good, but it's still, I don't think it hit the target that we were going for. So I think I had announced that we were going to release one recipe a week or something like that, and we will release this episode, but it's not a finished recipe yet.
Yeah, and I feel like it's important that we address that. We're not going to release a finished recipe every week if it's not finished. We're going to give ourselves time to work on it, and in the future episodes, we might visit more than one, maybe 2 or 3 recipes, and then come back, and we'll always finish the recipes, but they may not be consecutively worked on.
Yeah,
I mean, we can address the audience here. You'd rather that, right? The audience would rather have that. I mean, assume, right? You don't want a bunch of shit recipes. You'd rather have the best that we can put out.
Yeah,
Yeah, the entire purpose of this show is to show you the entire process of, we're not just trying to do like a live mixing show where we come up with a recipe on the spot and we release something every week. Otherwise, it gets really kind of tedious, and we can't really, you can't expect a really good product from that. So we feel really strongly about doing this, but we are definitely interested in what you guys think.
Right, and I know that we talked about that quite a bit before we actually started working on the show, is that we want to show the part of the development process that everyone fails. It doesn't matter if you're the best mixer in the world, you're not going to knock out every profile first try. It just doesn't happen. It's not realistic. And so I feel like a lot of learning can happen from watching people fail and not get where they want to go, and then see us come back and try to fix it and address the things that we didn't like. And I feel like that's going to be really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of things. A lot of times people rush to put shit out or just put it out just to put it out. I just don't think that's beneficial at all. So that's something we decided on early, and I'm glad that the chat's kind of agreeing with it.
Yeah.
Now what we're trying to do here.
Yeah. Now we will release the episode. We're just not going to release like the finished recipe, like post it on all the flavors and stuff, because we want y'all to see the process, whether we get it right the first time or it takes us 5 times to do it right, or maybe even never. Maybe it'll be an ongoing thing, but we're gonna show you the process. That's the most important part.
Right, and then Courtney was saying that we should probably do like a rotation development. That way we can let everything steep, and that's the plan that we all agreed on. Is that we'll not only just because we can let it steep and like figure out where we want to go, but it'll also keep it more interesting. That way you don't have to spend 4 weeks in a row learning about our failures on one profile. We'll make it interesting, but we don't want to overcrowd it either, where you have to try to follow 10 recipes in development, and it's just not feasible.
Yeah, and we saw that coming in, like, as just learning from experience of, like, that we all have. We had the opportunity to start, maybe we started before the episode started airing, so we didn't have to wait. We're like a few weeks ahead of the stuff we're releasing as far as videos go. That's why we put the live component in, so that we could stay current with you guys, but also be ahead of ourselves so that we can let things steep. And, it's not like we're releasing it today and then talking about it tomorrow or tonight or whatever. We've definitely put anything we're talking about, we've got some time in with it, at the very least a week.
Right, and that also brings up another really fantastic point about doing like the rotated development is that if we get suggestions from the chat, the audience, on an episode we release, we want to be able to get the flavors if we need to get new flavors or whatever we have to do to implement good ideas, because we're not any better than anyone else out there. And if you have some solid ideas for how we can improve our idea, we're going to use it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
That is the main focus of the show is absolutely to develop the best possible thing we can develop, no matter where we get it from. I mean, no matter at all where we get it from. We're just curators.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that pretty much wraps it up. We'll have a new episode coming out Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, and you can see us all fail miserably, and it should be.
Yeah, that's another point. You'll never see us giving you shit. You'll never ever see us waiting. If it's 10 minutes before 4 o'clock and it's supposed to be an hour or whatever, we're never going to sit just bull out for 9 minutes. Right. So that's why so don't look at the clock and think that we're quitting early or going over or anything like that. There's just no. So the information's there, it's coming out, and if it's not, we're bouncing.
Yep, that's it. So Sub Vapes want to know if I could do like a gallery view. I'm not sure why, but I can if that's what you want.
So Vapes, we agreed that we do the speaker view just because we want to keep this really relaxed, and so if we have someone randomly come in and leave, it'll mess up the ratio of the screen. So we figured it's better to do the speaker view. Yeah. Max, you were gonna say something?
I was just wondering, do you guys want to tease the profile for the next episode?
That's up to you. Go for it.
All right. Well, I guess what we're going for is a donut, and that one's pretty tough. I don't think it came out very good. This might actually turn into something different along the way, but we're not going to show that right away. But what it is right now is a pretty interesting donut, and it's really tough to make.
Yeah, and like Folkar was saying when he talked about it a bit earlier, is that it's not. We made something that it's not terrible at all, but it's not what we planned on producing at the end. So we're going to go back and work on it more. But I feel like there's a lot to learn from watching our discussion and why we went with the choices that we ended up going with.
Yeah. All right. Are we about ready to wrap it up then?
Yep. We're going to head out, and then Pippa's stream's coming on next, so everyone head over there and watch that. And
yeah, I just want to say something about that. I think I'm allowed to say this. I hope I am. I think Lewis from Chef's Flavors is going to be on Pippa's show right after this show. So I encourage everybody to go there and check that out. Lewis, I met Lewis and Carl in Vegas back in October. Super nice guys. Super nice guys. So be sure to check that out.
Yeah, and I also want to make sure that we mention Fresh has been talking about our show a lot, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate the support from everyone.
Yeah, and big shout out to Wayne Walker for talking about our show last night during his live mixing. That was awesome of him.
And Vape Train. Vape Train has been very, very supportive and huge help. So thank you, Theo. Thank you, everybody at Vape Train.
Vape Train.
Yep.
Black Cat, Whiteface. TNOTPR.
Yeah.
I believe we lost Graham there.
All right. Well, that wraps it up. Talk to everyone next week.
All right. See you guys.